Auckland was what was Auckland? 11 overnight.
Okay, that's great.
I was in Auckland City earlier, and there's a New Zealand umbrella brand called Blunt, and they're sort of famous for being resistant to high winds, and everyone in New Zealand just walks around with their Blunt umbrella, and basically anyone that didn't have a Blunt umbrella had an inside-out umbrella. It was pretty funny because it was perfect ad for Blunt just walking around.
Yeah, only one to survive.
Yeah. And you see in all the bins like ruined umbrellas though.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so funny. Very good. I'm glad it's not that cold there. I do like your logo, Kerrie. It's very eye-catching.
Yeah. So many superheroes, not all of them wear capes, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, brilliant. Should we make a start? Everyone happy with that? I'm just conscious, I think we've done this before and we run very close to time. So I think just if there's more people joining and they want to ask some questions, maybe we do that. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. I know that it's a very busy time for everyone, accountants and small businesses, to try and get ready for the end of financial year and tax time. So by introduction, my name is Johann. So I will be the moderator today. It's a very difficult job because we've got a panel who loves to talk and express lots of great insight. So I will do my best to keep us on track and keep us on time. If there's anything that I can say about our track record is that we do normally run close to time. But as I say before every meeting or every workshop, I will try and get us out of here with 5 or 10 minutes to spare so that you can go to your next meeting. But I can't make any promises. So thank you so much for our panel for joining us today. So the admin superheroes will do an introduction in a minute. Accountants Direct and Involved Digital. So got some really good experience on the panel today. So feel free to ask your questions. There will be lots of opportunity to do so. We've also got some other prepared questions that we'll go through that we believe will make it really useful for you to be here today. But what I would do is I would start thinking about not only your tax questions, ask around business questions, ask around scaling, marketing, anything that you kind of need to potentially do a bit of a reset, from the 1st of July onwards. I think that this time of year is such a great time to do that and have a look at, what are the systems and processes that you've got in your business and, what can you do to actually improve that? So I think, I've kind of covered what we're going to go through. So maybe if we can go to the panel slide. Esther, sorry for ruining your slide pack there. I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting today about introducing our panel. So I'll get each of our panel members to introduce themselves and what they do. But I want to ask them essentially, if tax time had a theme song, what would it be? I've been thinking about this for the last 48 hours since I've come up with this question. And I think the final countdown is really the one that resonates with me. I think, something that you think will be easy or should work becomes this survival sport almost of hurrying and getting information, pulling things together, hopping on the phone and calling your accountant. So I think that is a good one for me. Julie, do you want to maybe kick us off?
Yeah, so as a huge Beatles fan, what song could you not choose but The Taxman?
That's a good one. And what do you do, Julie?
So I'm a registered tax agent and I'm with Accountants Direct, and I've had about 30 years working in accounting, and I had a 10-year break from accounting 20 years ago. And in that time, I've owned a coffee shop, a motel, a gym, and done all sorts of things. So I'm probably not your standard accountant who's sort of not been in small business. So had some huge highs and lows, so I can really associate with anybody in small business.
Oh, thanks, Julie, and thank you for making the time again today. Keeping to the Accountants Direct theme, Stephen, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone, and apologies, I'm a bit croaky today, got a bit of a nasty cold. Oh, someone's ringing me. Yeah, so Steve Burns, I've owned Accountants Direct for 15 years. So I'm the sole owner and director of that company. We look after about 5,000 clients every year across Australia and been around for a while now. Before that, I did just about everything. Diving instructor, I worked in the gym industry for a long time, working in corporate life and marketing, lots of things. Worked in my family's various trades, businesses. I would take me hours to go through it. I actually thought it was a movie, but I must admit, the one song that comes to mind is that boom, 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 under pressure. That is pretty much the one that I get completely from here all the way through till probably the end of July. So yeah, very interesting song and a good song too.
Oh, I love it. All right, thank you, Stephen. Welcome, and thank you again. Michael, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Michael. I founded Involved Digital about 15 years ago, and we've helped anything from small sole traders all the way up to global multinationals scale their businesses, and from a marketing and business growth standpoint. And the song that I'm going to go with today, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. I'm going to do Lenny Kravitz's Highway Robbery, because if you're not prepared at tax time, it feels like highway robbery. So that's my song.
Awesome. Kerrie, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Kerrie from the Admin Superheroes, and we're a fractional outsourced company that does operations. My song is going to be She Works Hard for the Money. Because if she doesn't do it right, she's going to lose it all.
Very
You
fitting.
need those good accountants.
Oh, I love it. Great. And Shishir.
Hey guys, I'm Shishir. I'm the product owner here at Soul. I spent around the last 12, 13 odd years building and delivering digital products. And the song that I would choose for the tax season would be, there are two, but I would say I Will Survive, because it's just surviving one reconciliation at a time. It just comes to you all together. So yeah, that would be my song.
Oh, great. No, I think so too. I think for me, Eye of the Tiger was for the Rocky reference, was a close second for me. So
Oh my God.
I think, making sure that, every time you get knocked down, you can get back up again is very important this time of year. So do you want to just flick over to the next slide for me, Esther? And maybe we can get into it. I don't have a lot to present. I don't want to talk much today, although I'm very good at that. I want the panel to be able to answer most of your questions. But I guess just to kind of set the scene, I think when I think about the end of financial year, I think about tax, I get the sense that, everyone thinks that they're on their own, not knowing what's happening or what's going on. I think that that's not the case. I don't think there's anyone who's got everything, tied up and is perfect each year. I think there's always things and loose threads that you got to work through. I think for me, the big thing is how do we and how do you help yourself, keep that system really tight, making sure that you keep all of your receipts, making sure you don't have this rush at the end of the year. And I think for me, if I have to boil it down to one sentence, it's not to have scattered information, know where everything is up to and where it's at. And I think as we're going through today, that's going to be a big theme. It's a feeling that I have, a lot of the questions that we're going to go over will kind of lead back to that. So don't be surprised if you see that. Do you want to just go to the next one for me, Esther? And then I think, one of the big things that I see when I'm talking to our clients at Soul. So, sorry, I didn't actually introduce myself. I skipped over that. I'm the CEO and founder of Soul, actually. So, unfortunately, I'm not on the panel. So we've got Shishir on there because he's the brains of the business. But essentially, I talk to our clients all the time, and I'm sure I would have spoken to you guys at some point as well, for those who have joined us today. And I think some of the big things that I find is, the process of how you do your accounting, what the purpose of a reconciliation or in Soul specifically a match is, and the importance of that to actually help your accountant. Like how do you actually structure that? How do you store your receipt? Making sure that everything is in that one place that you have registered and that you can actually then just pass on to your accountant or get someone to help you to do that. One of the funny and not funny things that, I hear quite a lot is that I have a bank statement, so everything is in there, so the accountant will know what to do with that. That only gets you so far, and I'm sure that we're going to cover some of those pitfalls today, but making sure that you've got that process and that understanding will make not only, running your business more efficient, but probably will mean that you end up making more money because you'll have better visibility, you'll have better reporting. And, that's really why we've got, Kerrie and Michael on the call today to kind of talk to some of those strategies. And, if you've got that information, if you've got that dashboard of, whether it's in an accounting system, whether it's in a different tool, what do you actually do with that? How do you actually use that to better your business? And that's what I call the end of financial year reset, why I think it's such a good opportunity, because you're doing all this work, you might as well, help make the tax man happy, but also, get the rest of the bits around your business sorted. So that was all. I only had the 2 slides that I really wanted to go through today. I had a question before we got into it, and I wanted to ask Julie and or Stephen to kind of answer that, because I think one of the big things when we get to the end of financial year is what does my accountant actually need from me? And then, there's going to be a bunch of requests that you've got to do, and you've got to go away and collect all of that. So I guess, Julie and Stephen, from your perspective, what are the biggest pitfalls that people run into that kind of waste their time, and then they have to go back and find all of these things to get ready for tax time?
Okay, so I think one of the main things is that people probably need to understand their business a little bit more and ask their tax agent or accountant some questions. People sort of tend to often just give us everything and hope that, we have a crystal ball that can work everything out and know that everything's there. So obviously technology and really good systems now, like Soul, make life a lot easier for small business rather than having to do everything manually. So yeah, I think it's just learning a bit about your business and asking some questions about how you can do things better.
I think the one, just to mention what Julie said, I think these days you've got software which is such good value and works so well. You have to be a bit crazy to do manual systems like even Excel, I think, for any size business these days, because you can get at any type of accounting software to suit your budget as well. And it makes the accountant a lot happier too these days, is when you are using software, because generally it pushes you to set out your business in a format that we can understand and very quickly give you a result from. And otherwise it could take hours and hours to unwind what you're doing. It's funny, just before this call, I had a gentleman ring up who had been operating for 3 years. Not only did he not have any online bookkeeping software, but he had not maintained any numbers at all. And he came to me because the bank wants him tomorrow to provide a profit and loss and cash forecasts to obtain finance. And he wanted me to do that for him tonight for 3 years of trading. So that it's pretty difficult to do that. So I'm thinking either tiger, but no, not either tiger. Accountants can't do this at late minute. So help us both out by using online software these days. That's the key thing.
Cool. No, that makes good sense to me. I mean, I think, and I think, the biggest thing I take away from that, Stephen, is it's not necessarily doing it right at the end. If you've got that hygiene of doing it throughout the year, then you're obviously going to have a much better record at the end of the year, and there's going to be a lot less stress for yourself as the business owner, but as well as the accountants. You probably get a better outcome as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, I have lots of questions that I want to go through with you today, but we've only had one being submitted before. So I'll read that out. While I do that, for those who did or were able to join us today, if you've got a question, please feel free, to put your hand up, come off, or just ask the question. I'll open the floor in a minute. I want to make sure that you get the opportunity to do that, and then we'll really get the conversation flowing from there. So the question that was submitted, I'm going to read it out specifically, and then I think there's going to be two parts to the answer. So it said, how do I start my account and also my family account? When I was reading this preparation for today, I wasn't sure if they were referring to their sole account or, setting up their account with an accountant. So from a sole perspective, I mean, more than happy to set up a call with you. I've asked my team actually to reach out to you after this call. So we will do that, and then we will help you set up your account. And there's a way that you can share your account so that your family can log into that. I'm assuming what this relates to is, your partner or something might be at home doing the books. You might be out of the field, depending. So we can help you set that up. That's all in there, and it's all automated, and it's all logged as well, so you can see who's making what changes. From an accounting perspective, I might just throw over to Julie, because I think she would be probably the best place to kind of answer how you would set up not only your own accounts with an accountant and do your tax, but also from a family perspective.
Okay. Well, I guess it's probably one of those things that has a, how long is a piece of string? But for most people, I always say, if you don't love bookkeeping and you don't love doing all that sort of thing, then probably find somebody that you can pay to do it. Unless you're a very small business and you can capture everything like on an app like Soul, and you can quickly do it. But a lot of people, it's very overwhelming. It would be exactly the same for me to go somewhere and need to set up a technical situation. Like, it's not what I do. So you tend to pay people for that sort of thing. And I think a lot of small business people shy away from getting help because they're worried about the cost. But sometimes the cost of you doing it outweighs the cost of having it done in the first place. So, talk to people. We look after lots of small business. There's lots of practices like ours. We look after small business, not necessarily huge, massive business. And small businesses often grow into big businesses. So we love looking after small business. And I think that's a good place to start, because you might be surprised at the stress cost saving might be much better for you than trying to do it all yourself when you don't really know what you're doing.
Yep. And Julie, if you, let's say I haven't ever been to an accountant before, I've maybe just started my business, or I've been operating for a long time and I've never really needed an accountant, or never thought I needed one. Is it too late to do it now, right before the end of the financial year? Like, should I be doing it this tax season, or should I wait for next? Like, what's the best time to kind of start doing these things?
Oh, I just think anytime's the right time to do it, really. It doesn't really matter. I mean, as I say, technology allows us to adapt to anything these days. In the old days, it was probably a little bit harder, but in today's world, it's it's very easy. So if people find this is a time of year when people do start to look to move or change and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just always say, if you're going to do it, just do it when you're ready to.
Yep, that makes sense. Cool. Before I get into some additional questions, I just thought I'd open the floor. Is there anyone that has any other questions? There's no pressure. More than happy for you just to listen if you like, but always like to do that if there's anything that's front of mind for you. Cool, no problems. Great. Michael, I thought I would start with you today. So if I was a small business and I've done pretty well this year, but I'm looking to kind of scale up in the next financial year, I really want to take things to the next level. What are the 2 or 3 things that you would say is critical and fundamental for me to have a look at? And what would you do to kind of get that sorted?
Yeah, from a small business standpoint, I think it's super important to get your digital infrastructure right from the get-go. I'll use an example of this guy. Like 4 months ago, he came to us and he didn't even have a business, and he wanted to just start mowing lawns, water blasting. His name's Mr. Mo, and he tried to put together a website on designs.com. It was a templated website, so obviously there's no schema markup, and wasn't built to SEO best practice. And he kind of quickly realized that because he's trying to launch, didn't get any leads, and it just didn't work for him. So he came to us and I said, look, let's redo your website. We'll do it properly with a good SEO foundation from the get-go. And so what we did, he's actually based in Gore, New Zealand, so small little rural town in the South Island of New Zealand. And his service area was really about 50 minutes drive around there, right? And so what we did is we wanted to target all of those suburbs and neighbouring towns with the services that he offered. So the website reflected that, right? So it was, lawn mowing, Gore, Mataura, Edendale, Invercargill, and then all the different services, right? So he then created this basically a web and a matrix of pages for each of those locations. All of a sudden, he's got 3 KFCs wanting him to do his lawns and gardens every 2 weeks. He's phone's ringing off the hook, a whole bunch of people wanting to work for him because we got him to the first place of Google for all the relevant search terms, right? So his business blew up. Within a month, he's on track to make 350 grand of revenue. And he's hired 2 people in the first month of doing that activity. So really a huge change can just be like getting your website and your digital infrastructure right, and then and getting that marketing sorted, right? He's just spending a small amount on Google Ads, nothing massive. He, like 2 jobs covers his monthly marketing spend. So his ROI on that is great. And so that's what you really got to look at is like, what are you restricted by and how can you alleviate those restrictions and get those leads flowing in, right? So any small business can do this, right?
So the big thing for me, and that makes complete sense, Michael, I guess, I'm reflecting on me having run a small business and, actually, having experienced that. When people say marketing, I normally just want to close my wallet because it seems that it's going to be very expensive. What are the things, so I now acknowledge that you have to do that, right? Like one small change from you on the SEO, building the website has actually caused all of that traffic. And the return on investment of that's obviously fantastic. But in your opinion, like what are the things that people normally waste money on and, the missed opportunities from a marketing and growth perspective that, you could rather better utilize doing something like what you've said?
Yeah, one of the things that we typically do is we sort of developed an 8-step digital strategy where you define your target audience. Who is that? Who do you want to target? Where do they hang out? So, online and whatnot. And then how are you going to sort of get in front of them? What are your objectives? Is it sales? Is it leads? Is it, what is the goal that you want to work towards? And you want to really sort of work back from that. So if it's leads, how are you going to do that? So what platform is your audience going to typically use? So in his case, it's Google Ads. People typically, if they're looking for lawn mowing or water blasting or gutter cleaning, they jump on Google somebody, and then here he was, right? So both from an SEO standpoint and a Google Ads standpoint. In the first 3 months, I sort of set it out to him and said, don't expect too much in the first 3 months. We want to be able to get you a few leads and stuff, but it may not. It's about data accumulation, and then from there we can learn what's working, what's not working, and optimize. And so you got to kind of go in with that approach of you have to spend a little bit up front and be fine with that. But you really want to, part of our job is to try to get a profitable ROI as soon as possible, right? And typically we can achieve that within the first 3 months. So then, he doesn't then see it as a cost. He sees it as an investment, which is really important, right?
That makes sense. So I guess to follow on from that, Kerrie, I know you've got lots of experience with this, but what are the things that you see where people are not doing the little things throughout the year, and that's actually costing them the ability to grow or costing them stress at the end of the financial year? I have a funny story of where I've heard, one of our customers where they basically remember things. They don't write it down and they don't, have a to-do list or have a storage. So they go, oh, yep, I bought this from Bunnings 3 months ago. I kind of said to that guy, like, you really just need to take a photo of the receipt, even if you don't upload it to Soul. It's really important to at least have a record of it, because at some point your memory will probably fail. But, I always go back to that as an example. What are your thoughts, Kerrie?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that people probably don't do each year is consistency. So I find, all of us straight out of the gate, new year, every new year we've always got this big goal, and it doesn't matter whether it's financial new year or normal new year, but we always run out the gate full steam ahead, and then we run out of steam, right?
Yep.
Because we can only go so far on that kind of level of drive and adrenaline and caffeine. So, but what I think where a lot of people kind of let themselves down is they get stuck in the weeds and they lose that consistency. So they might go really great over the Christmas break and, pull together all this content. For example, I've done this before. I pulled together content for 18 months. So guess what? I don't look at it again for, 8 months, right? I don't think about it. And then you forget that consistency, and things change, and you need to adapt, and you need to go with the flow. But it's not just consistency around whether it's marketing, because, Michael will tell you that you need to be super consistent when it comes to marketing, right? It's got to be on top of it all the time.
Yep.
But it's consistently knowing your numbers and what do they mean and where is your money going, right? And that's the beauty of using something like Soul. You can see how much you're spending on marketing, how much you're spending on subscriptions, and look at those things and go, oh, I'm still paying for this networking group and I haven't been 9 times out of 10 this year. Why am I still paying for it? Right. So this is the time of year to actually set those realistic goals to get the consistency back. Because if we just turned up and we're consistent, we do a hell of a lot better every year. But, quite often we just run out of steam.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've got a love of dashboards as well. So
yes,
I'm sure that plays into it.
Yes. Hence why I know all of those things, where they come from.
Oh, that's great. I might just actually move the next question. I thought what we should do is maybe pivot away from the growth side, but more towards the tax side. I guess that a lot of people are going to be here today probably asking some questions around, the new budget that was just released in the last couple of months, and some other questions that I've actually seen come through to our support team from a Soul perspective. So I thought I'd add them in here to kind of throw it into the experts. I don't know, Stephen, what your thoughts are on this year's budget that got released, and what are the 2 or 3 takeaways for small businesses? Like, what do we need to know for us to run our businesses more effectively and efficiently? And sorry, Julie, I know you're back as well. So if you want to take it, up to you guys.
If you have a look at step back from all this, there hasn't been really a lot of changes from last year. So don't be too worried about what major things have happened. The things that have happened recently that are hitting the media don't actually affect most business owners. So don't worry about that's mostly property owners and things like that. And for that matter, that won't happen until July next year, and it's in relation to capital gains tax and trusts mostly. So don't get caught up on that too much. A lot of the good things that have carried forward from last year, the instant asset write-off is a good one if you're a business owner and you need to invest in an asset for your business. You need to be very quick because you've only got a few more days left, but to get that asset bought and in the business, then you can instantly write that off against any profit that you've got. So profitable businesses this year, if you've got an excess of profits and you need to invest in something, that's probably the best one moving forward.
And what's the cap on that one, Stephen? Like, what's the requirement?
20K, isn't it, Julie? I think it's 20K still, isn't it?
Your 20,000. 20,000 including GST.
Including GST. So you can, it'll apply to a whole range of things. Very, very good for tradies that I find that need new equipment heading into the new year, that have made a decent amount of profit during the year and don't want to have to pay too much of that back in tax. So it's a good one. But again, I think that there's not a lot of major changes that people should be concerned about this year. Again, if you've done your bookkeeping throughout the year, I know we keep on coming back to this, but if you can't do too much in the last 2 weeks except for that instant asset write-off, I think. to make any changes. One thing I always say is heading into the new year is have a look at the business structure that you're currently in, because it could make a difference to change structures as of July, which makes sense, because then you're kind of wrapping up with the previous structure by June 30, and you can start a new structure and a new new software, new SOL, and a new ABN and everything moving forward from July every year, which makes sense as well. It's just a very clean way of doing it. So there's a couple of things I mentioned. Julie, you probably have a few comments too. On the spot?
Yeah, look, I think there hasn't, for smaller business, there hasn't been a huge amount of change. And to be honest, we haven't seen a lot of the new things legislated yet, so they're probably not going to take effect, and they're not, some of them aren't going to affect small business anyway at this stage. So so as Steve said, the 20,000 write-off is probably the, and that's going to be permanent. So we're normally rushing to get people across the line with the changing in levels, but it's now going to be permanent moving forward. So if you haven't got the cash to do it this year, the 20,000 will be in next year as well. So that's always a good thing for, tools and things like that, computers, that type of thing. But other than that, a lot of the changes that have come through won't make that much difference to most small businesses, at least not in the short term.
Yep. That makes sense. And I think that's good. Like I'm by no means an accountant, so I can't say that, but I kind of read into that. Obviously, when the news came out, initially there was all this bad news, bad media, terrible, small businesses dying. And then when you actually go into it, I thought that, at least there's a bit of time and considerations for us. So maybe just a follow-up to that. One of the questions that we get asked most from a support perspective is what people need to do with vehicle, travel, home, and mixed use kind of claims in general. So 3 categories and like a mixed use. I don't know what your thoughts are, or the things that you normally see, the guidance that you provide people or your clients to do with that.
Well, it's like most things, it comes down to documentation. So if, for example, people are using they're working from home, which a lot of small business people do, you need to sort of document how much you're doing from home. We always say keep a diary. Probably more is better with record keeping. If you do work from home, keep a diary. If you use your own motor vehicle, if you're a tradie who has a ute, which you use predominantly for work, but we always assume people do use it a little bit for private and that sort of thing. But the more documentation, diary notes, calendar notes, anything like that is really helpful for us to establish a pattern of how you use things. And the first thing the ATO will ask in an audit situation is, where's your documentation? How did you work this out? So we get a lot of people who will, for example, who will just go, they know that the limit is to claim 5,000 kilometres on their motor vehicle. This is for employees and business people. So they'll just say, I use my vehicle 5,000 kilometres. But the ATO will want to know how you use it. What do you use it for? Oh, well, I go here 3 times a week and that's 30 kilometres each way, that type of thing. You don't have to keep a logbook for less than 5,000 kilometres, but you still have to establish use. So the more record keeping you can do, the better off it will be.
Makes sense. And this might be a dumb question, but I always ask my accountant this is, if I'm outside of the norm of what I do in my industry, will the ATO want to audit me? Like, so let's say, then my industry normally, I don't know, you tell me that on average people work 3 days a week. But if from home or something, or drive a certain number of kilometers, if I'm outside of that, will the ATO automatically want to audit me, or is there kind of a threshold? Like, how does that normally work?
Well, the ATO uses benchmarks to, all tax returns are run through using benchmarks these days. We're not actually privy to a lot of the system that they use, but you will, if they believe that your claims are high, you might get a warning from them, and that will make you tend to record keep a little bit better. But everybody's different. So as long if your business might be completely different to the benchmarks and legitimately different, But as long as you can substantiate those claims with, as I say, diaries or receipts for purchases and things like that, you'll be fine. It's you know, it's just all about keeping records and documenting what you do.
Probably the biggest reason for people getting audited these days, Johann, is two: non-payment and non-lodgement. Not in that order. It should be non-lodgement and non-payment, actually. So most people will get audited because of that, because it's showing behaviour that is not consistent with what the ATO wants. So, you know, when you get to a stage where they start issuing director penalty notices, then you can just be assured that an audit is on its way. But yeah, Julie mentioned about bandwidths, and they certainly use that for wage and salary owners to very quickly check that someone's not sort of claiming over that they should.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. There's one other question that we get asked quite a lot through our support, and that is to do with what happens if I've done the work before the 30th of June, but I only received the payment in the new financial year. What happens at that point? Like, is that going to increase my tax this year? Is it going to, you know, how does that work?
So that again is probably a conversation that people need to talk to their accountant about, because in most small businesses, we would probably use a cash system. So that's what goes in and what goes out of the bank account is your income and expenses. But we do also with businesses as they grow, we use accrued accounting, which would mean that if you issued invoices at the beginning of June, but you weren't paid by the end of June, they still could be included in your taxable income for that year. So that's probably a more dedicated discussion to have with your accountant in how your business fits in and what system your business uses, whether it's cash or accrual.
Yep. That makes sense. And I mean, you know, the majority of our customers on Soul all are cash accounting because they're quite small. So that makes sense to me. So in that, just to summarize that, then Julie, I guess cash is king. Your bank statement is your source of truth, basically, for where those things will be recognized in which year.
Yeah, definitely. And look, as I say, these days with technology and great systems like Soul, you know, you can capture all your income and expenses quite easily, and there's really, you know, no excuse anymore for people, you know, not including everything or you know, leaving out chunks of information.
Yep. Okay, no, that makes good sense. Great. Maybe to go a little bit away from tax, I thought the next question we could ask something that is very applicable to 2026. And Shishir, I'm going to ask this one to you. What are you seeing as the biggest trends in AI for small business? And Michael, I know that you've obviously got a lot of experience in this as well. So happy for you to kind of weigh in on the back of Shishir to kind of broaden the answer.
I think mostly it's going to be automation of your usual processes. It's now so easy to just hop over on Claude, ChatGPT, provide a small blurb of what you're doing, what you want to do. And it's not just small businesses, right? Even in businesses like ours, we are now heavily relying on Claude and ChatGPT to provide us details and provide us strategy. And I think that the earlier you start getting familiar and using these tools, it's going to be a lot easier in the next 6 months, 1 year, right? When it's everything AI and searching for content, researching for content, selling, all needs to pass through AI. So I think that's one key takeaway we are implementing on our side, but I would say small businesses more so.
And Michael, what do you think? I mean, you're probably going to look at, I'm assuming, more the marketing growth side, but still very applicable, I'd say, you know, across any industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the moment, any small business that is using AI has got a huge advantage over the big companies. I'll give you an example. Like we work with one of the largest insurance broker networks in Australasia, and they're limited to Microsoft Copilot. But when you're a small business and you don't have limitations around, corporate governance and all that sort of stuff, and what you can use in terms of your tool stack, you've got a huge, huge opportunity, right? Even Sam Altman from ChatGPT has got a secret like WhatsApp group, which they're having bets on who's going to be the first solo billion-dollar business. And it's completely possible now, right? Like you can scale enormously with AI without having to get a whole big team and hire loads of staff and all of this stuff, right? So it's a game changer for small businesses, right? You've really got a huge, huge opportunity in front of you.
Yeah, so Julia fired. That's it. When AI has replaced you,
I could
everyone's going to go and fire everybody now.
I can only wish.
And you only have one person. I've never heard that before. That's amazing. That's it. That's where I'm going.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, Julie.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, best time of year for it to happen.
I couldn't afford to fire Julie. I tell you right now, it's impossible. There's no AI in the world that could be as good as Julie.
I think for me, there's obviously what we've just spoken about. Michael's obviously just said that there could be a solo $1 billion business. Like, how good would that be? But I guess it says to me as well, it's not just processes and marketing and, from our perspective, accounting. Kerrie, I'm assuming that, you see a lot of your members and people that you work with use AI to kind of get their pricing right, their margins. How do they manage, their day-to-day processes? So there'd be a little bit of automation, but really understanding, I guess, research and benchmarking as well. Is that the case?
Oh, absolutely. So there's processes, automations, all that, the usual stuff is 100% in there. And one of my favorite things in the world to do with AI is actually brainstorm.
Yeah.
Because I can build out models, I can build out empires, and I can map those back, pressure test them, build the dashboard that has to go with it, and do all those different things and pull multiple systems together to make it all work, all step by step without having to code or do any of those things. And I think that that's such a big game changer for every small business out there, because there's so many of us that are in that space that dream really bloody big, right?
Yep.
But we just don't have the technical knowledge or the funding. We don't go to VCs and get funding so that we can build this particular software that we need so that we can do what we want to do. So this kind of really levels the playing field, I think, for a lot of us.
Yep, that makes sense. And I guess one thing that worries me, about AI is that you think you become an expert, I guess, by asking all of these questions, but there's obviously only know so much. So how do you manage that? And Michael, once again, happy for you to weigh in here as well if you've got some ideas. But what are the guardrails that you put up for yourself to make sure that you're getting the right information? Because, it could cost you a lot of money if you get it wrong.
Absolutely. And I think there's some really good prompts out there that you can build into the AI to kind of make it pressure test it.
Yep.
So, and to really find the red flags or the flaws in what you're trying to design and build and grow, so that you know what they potentially could be and then plan for it.
Yep.
Right. So it's not saying that you can't do it. It's just saying these are the things that you need to be concerned about or you need to have a plan for. And it can come up with other things that you may not even, it doesn't even hit your radar if that's an opportunity.
Yep.
And then you can go down that rabbit hole because there's a lot of rabbit holes in AI. But I think when you build the specific prompts inside each of the project that tell it, don't just tell me what I want to hear, basically.
Yep.
Basically break it and tell me if I'm doing all right. Then, you still double check it, sanity check it with your gut, do all those things. And I think you're pretty close.
Yeah. And I guess, there's still a place in this world for talking to an expert, talking to other people in the industry probably as well. So to help with that stress testing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it gives you a basis to what to ask them, because you may not have been able to articulate what you were looking for before, but it also then can check what they're telling you too, so that you actually understand what they're telling you and if they're the right person.
Yep, makes sense. Michael, did you have anything else on that?
I was completely agree with what Kerrie's saying. I mean, AI can sort of go off on tangents a lot of the time. And so you really do need those guardrails. We've actually been building the world's first fully autonomous digital marketing and growth agency. And so what we've got is we've got layers of AI agents which execute all the tasks. So everything from proposals all the way through to Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, building a website, all that stuff. And so the whole premise of this is that a business owner can just plug straight into it. But on our back end, we've had to build this so that we've got really strict and tight guardrails. So each step and each AI sub-agent that performs their particular task, that then goes into an approval queue, and a human checks that work off, make sure, yes, that is correct. There's no errors, and then it can then basically approve, and then it will go to the next step in the chain of things. So a lot of people are trying to, do this sort of automation and automation workflows and whatnot. But I think it's very important, if you are going down that path, to put in those human approval checks along the way.
Yeah, it makes sense. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think from my perspective as a very AI noob, I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all, but I think having that human intervention gives you a much better output. And it means that you can work faster, to what Kerrie was saying. I think, you can work 2 or 3 times faster than what you used to, depending on what industry you're in, if you're using it properly. The next one I might actually throw to Stephen. Payroll, super, SDP, that kind of things are always 3 very scary words. What would you say that, employers kind of need to have ready for that this time of year?
Oh, you always throw me the boring stuff, don't you, Johann? Anyway, I'm a CEO, you know that. Sorry. Yeah, look, payroll is pretty important, obviously, moving into an environment where, especially, you've got to pay superannuation now for each payroll tenure. So back before June 30, and we've been doing this for many years, by the way, but you could pay your superannuation every quarter. And now you've got to pay it every payroll, so every pay. So it's usually every 2 weeks. A lot of people are going to run out of money if they haven't got reserves to pay their super. A lot of people are reliant on waiting until the end of the month, end of the quarter until they pay super, especially, businesses with fairly large amounts of staff. So just be careful in the first period of July that you've got access to, I think, some capital to be able to pay that superannuation. Because if you don't, we talked about earlier, one of those things that could potentially spark an audit, or at least have the ATO looking at you with a critical eye, and that is if you don't pay your superannuation. We find that that's probably the most important thing that people do pay, even more so than their income tax and PAYG, to pay that super, because there's been a lot of employers in the past that have not paid their super, or gone out of business, and and people have missed out. So I think that's the main thing heading into this new world of paying your superannuation. And I think it's a good thing, actually, because it's going to keep people away from losing their superannuation as well.
Yeah, I guess to that point is, having that, what Kerrie was saying before, that visibility and, knowing what's there to make sure you've got that cash flow. Kerrie, I'm assuming you've come off mute to say something similar, or?
Yeah, well, I actually had a follow-up question for that, actually, because I do know quite a few business owners, especially when it comes to the whole payday super. So there's a lot that will run.
Are you going to say, do AI agents have to pay superannuation?
No, thank God we're not paying them anything. No, I do know quite a few business owners that have teams and will often delay their own pay to pay their team, which then means when they go to process their pay in Xero or Sol, or whatever it may be, right? They may be doing it 2 or 3 weeks behind. How is that going to impact them, or is there something they need to be worried about when it comes to that kind of thing with the payday same day super?
Well, if they're an employee of their company, they have to pay it regardless if they're an owner of the company, of course, or they will have to delay their pay. I mean, that's just
that's what I mean. They usually delay their pay. They pay the team first, they delay their pay, and then
Yeah, I know how that feels. I think every business owner knows how that feels.
Yeah.
You know, at certain times of the year, you have to sort of suck it up and eat cornflakes. Believe me, I've been through that and going through it a little bit now. So yeah, but there's not much you can do about it if you've got no money. Again, I keep on coming back to active sources of finance that are reasonably priced, that you can turn on and off. I think it's really important. Lines of credit and things like that. And don't be afraid of that sort of stuff. It's important if you do want to scale. But you have to make sure that you take the right type of finance out. Don't overcommit yourself. Don't go for the ridiculously high interest rate finance providers that are out there charging 26+%, and getting into that type of spiral is not a good thing either. But talk to your bank first. If you've got a good relationship with them, you can set up an overdraft, blah, blah, blah. So that's the only way I think, Julie, unless you'd like to add to that, is having that finance available to you. And of course, pay it back as soon as you can. If good times come. I mean, we have a very busy July and we have a very terrible June. So we do have to utilize our lines of credit. They're heading into July, and we pay it most back by the end of the month. So I just have that plan, and that cash flow forecasting is very important for that as well.
Yeah. And I know that some of them don't do that. So it's just, I thought I'd ask the question because it's such a common thing for founders that have teams, right? That they're obviously the last paid, regardless of whether they're an employee or not.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you can still pay everything through the payroll and do all that, and just pay yourself. So as long as it shows in there by the 30th of June, it's still counted for this year. And then, as Steve said, you just pay yourself back when the funds are actually there. So it can still go towards this year's figures, but the actual cash transaction doesn't need to take place until after the 30th of June.
And you have other options to take money out of the business, as you know, especially for companies, but they're not great options, because it'll open up things called Division 7A issues where you owe the company so much money. Eventually the ATO says, oh, you got to pay it back now, and you got to pay it back with interest, and dividends and things like that. So we recommend that all owners of companies that have got reasonably positive income, is they do set themselves up as a employee within that business and pay themselves something and take some tax out. But again, talk to your accountant. It's not a one size fits all type of thing. Again, it goes back to the tradies. Some tradies prefer to take money out and not have it as wages and not have to pay tax or superannuation. But it comes back to bite them in the end, because it does cause a lot of liability for yourself. And don't forget, you're not the company. You're a completely different person. The company is its own legal liability. You're just the director of that company, and don't treat yourself as the same as the company.
That makes sense. And so I guess there's a slight difference there with what you've just said, Stephen, if you're a sole trader and you just have an ABN.
Yeah, different type of situation. Obviously, sole trader is you're the business under the one ABN, and if you're earning money elsewhere, you've got to combine it all at the end of the year and pay tax on that. You haven't got some obligations associated with running a company, of course, but there comes a time in any sole trader's life, if they're expanding, they probably will have to go to a company or a company trust type of structure. Otherwise, they will be paying too much tax. So it's an automatic thing if you are scaling. Of course, you're not scaling if you're happy with your business the way it is and you want to just earn the same amount of money year after year. Then sole traders for you. That's perfect to stay at that level.
Makes sense. And maybe Stephen, just to combat what you said before, asking all the boring questions to you, maybe a little bit more of a fun one. What would you say a business should not buy just to get a deduction? Like, I think this is probably one of your bugbears, I would say, of people just buying things right before the end of the financial year to get a deduction. Where have you seen that gone wrong?
Well, how about things that don't get a deduction? Anything. Look, it's got to be associated with the business, of course, and anything you can actually prove that there's a nexus between buying something, whether it's service or product, and the ability to earn money in that, either whether it's a business or even yourself personally. There are restrictions, of course, with that, depending on what product. What things in particular? Look, I guess things that are going to, for me, things that are going to last only for a short amount of time, or things on a whim, especially at the end of the year. I keep on coming back, people buying things at the end of the year, probably not getting advice on, and then realizing in July and August that maybe they weren't deductible at all, and they're kind of stuck with this thing and they've got a big hole in their pocket. I can't really think of any specific products, to be honest, Johann. I mean, I could say toys and things like that, you know, people buying jet skis thinking they can write it off on their business, you know, things like that, because it's got a sign on the side of it, or you know, that type of thing. Just use the common sense or the pub test, I think, when it comes to those things. Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. Kerrie, I've got one more question, I think, before we throw in and do the closing. I'm just conscious of time, but I have been asked a little bit this year around, you know, I need some support, you know, my business is growing. You know, I don't know if I can afford someone onshore. I don't know if I can, you know, should I go for a full-time person, part-time person, onshore? Like, have you got any thoughts on that? Like, what is the kind of space a founder or a small business needs to be in to kind of do that scaling, looking at offshore, looking at onshore, looking at part-time, leading into full-time? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So look, in all honesty, I would say one, start sooner rather than later. Start small, then grow. They're the two things. There's quite a lot of people out in the space. Like there's fractional companies like us that take care of operations. There's fractional like Michael who do marketing. So you can always start small and grow. There's also VAs out in the community that you can get, and they're both onshore and offshore. My only caveat around the offshore is that be conscious that not every VA is the same, right? The skill level that you're going to get generally here onshore is much more significant. Yes, the price may be a little bit higher, but the efficiency is going to be significant. The other thing to be aware of, and it might be something that Julie and Stephen are probably conscious of as well, they might know about the case that happened with an offshore employee that was employed full-time by a business over here in Australia, where they actually had fair work rights. So if you're thinking of going offshore because then you don't have to worry about the whole fair work business, you may need to reconsider that. At least if you've got someone here, they've got their own contracts, they do all those different things, and you've probably got a little bit more protection because they understand it. And it gets complicated trying to pay offshore, honestly. If you've ever tried to do it, it's just a pain in the ass.
And Kerrie, how do you find the right person then? You know, you're saying that, you know, not all people are the same. So how do you make sure you get a good one? Like, what is your approach to that?
Yeah, so sometimes the best way to do that, obviously, if you go through, you have a look at their experience, you have a chat to them. If they feel like a good fit, I would start them on a project and test them out in that capacity first, and then commit from there if you deem that they're the right person. And if they're not, then try again. At least then you haven't lost a lot of money up front. You're not committing to 6 months. You know, it's a little bit easier to test them out.
Cool. All right. I know that we're out of time. I would love to say thank you to the whole panel for joining us, taking the time. For everyone who's attended, we will be sending through a little helpful tax guide for you at the end of the session. And what we will also do is link in all of our lovely panelists and their businesses into that email so that you can contact them. What we find is that after the workshop ends, you come up with a question tomorrow with something that happens in your business. Everyone here is very friendly and very lovely. Feel free to reach out to them. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you. We weren't really here to do a sales pitch or anything today. Today is really just about helping you, and they'll continue to do that as well. What I thought, if everyone's got an extra 30 seconds, is I just wanted to run through the panel. And Kerrie, maybe we can start with you because you're top of my screen. But what is the one thing or tip that you would give small businesses leading into this financial year and into the next year?
Yeah, take the time to evaluate what worked and what didn't, and use the answers to set yourself up for next year.
Yep, makes sense. And I think that's come across quite heavily in all of the answers and questions that we had today. Stephen, do you want to go next? I may have frozen.
Sorry, that was my bad. I turned my mic off. Is that silly?
Oh,
I was going to say, the one thing I do is, look, if people come to me all the time, what should I invest in? We can't give investment advice for a start, but I always say invest in yourself, invest in your own education, invest in teaching yourself about business, and especially the financial side of the business if you don't know about it. And you know what can help is the bookkeeping software you use, and actually just learning how to use bookkeeping software will often help you a lot with your own finances of the business. So you know, that's the number one thing I'd say for next year.
Makes sense. Julie, do you want to go next?
Sorry. Yeah, look, I just think that it's a good idea to just look at what you've done during the year and what you can do a little bit better. So if that is upgrading to a better software or understanding your accounts a bit more or something like that, then that's probably, you know, a bit of reflection each year. And chatting to your accountant is also a way, you know, what can I do better? How can I understand my accounts a bit more? That's probably of great benefit to you as well.
Cool, makes sense. Shishir?
I'm gonna plug away soul on this, but document. Any expenses, anything that you have, click a picture, upload it to our system. Any invoices that you're generating, generate it from our system. We've got a perfect reporting system that's gonna give you BAS reports out the gate, and it's gonna make your accountant's life easier. So let's start using Soul.
Happy accountant, happy life by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
Michael, do you want to close it off for us?
Sure. I'd say everyone that comes to us is typically the ones that are most ambitious are the ones that really do well. And I find that, you know, everyone that's, you know, that ambition just drives people. You know, the more ambitious you are, the more drive you have day in, day out. Not every day is going to go the way you want it to go. So if you can have that ambition, it will just sort of get you through those lulls. And yeah, just be ambitious.
Back to Eye of the Tiger by the sounds of things, Michael.
That's it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you making the time and joining us here today. I'm sure that we'll run something similar. You know, hopefully it's not going to be 12 months before we see you again. But thank you so much for making the time, and thank you again, all the panelists, for making yourselves available. So I hope you guys have a great end of financial year, good tax season, and a great 2020 FY 27-28. So sorry, 26-27. I got ahead of myself there. Awesome. No worries. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
There you guys. Thank you.
Bye.